like to call to order the Planning and Development Committee meeting for Monday, January 13th, 2025. Tonight's invocation will be given by Chaplain Calvin Culpepper. If everyone could please stand.
Let's pray. Gracious and loving God, we thank you for having the privilege of serving our city. I pray that as we discuss our agenda and craft policies for our city, that we will always put the people's interests above our own personal interests. Remind us, O God, that we are in our positions not to be served, but to serve our constituents. I also pray that we will uphold what is moral and rational in line with your will. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
We're going to move right into our public speakers. We do have 4 tonight. Just as a quick reminder, you will have 3 minutes to make your remarks, at which time you'll hear an alarm sound, and we just ask that you bring your comments to a close at that time. Our first speaker tonight is Lola May, Thrower Parham. I don't see. I'm going to circle back and come back to her. Our second speaker is Joan Sage.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Alderman and Mayor. It's a pleasure to be here. I have some information I think that you've seen before, but it's particularly relevant today because Friday is my last day at Comcast. Yes, I am retiring. So it's very important that you have this information. The phone number on the blue and white card is the one for you to call in case there is a line that is low, or if you've had a constituent call that needs some extra assistance. This is the number that I have to call. You have it. It's just for all of you elected folks as well as department heads. And someone will answer it in person. What you will need to do is tell them exactly what the situation is, identify where it is, and then between you and whoever answers the phone, you can determine whether or not we need to get a technician out there immediately. We have people on call 24/7, so that if that is the case, they will go. If it can wait until the next day, that's when they will take care of it. But I know that you'll be very judicious about this phone number. Use it, identify yourself, and they will take care of you. The other piece of information is about our Now products. Mayor and I have spoken about this before, getting our prices to where it's affordable for folks, and this is a very affordable way for people to get our services. In addition to that, we do have our mobile phone service is a really good deal. And what I suggest on that, the best way is to go right to our Xfinity store. It's over near Portello's in the little strip mall where the Men's Warehouse is. Sometimes it's very busy, so I would suggest that you go online and make an appointment, because then you can get right in and they'll take care of you. It's been an honor to serve. Thank you very much for all of your support. And I live here and I volunteer here, so you'll probably see me around. Thank you so much.
Chairwoman, just before Joan Sage leaves, I know I'm going to share sentiments that I know all the council feels the same way. Joan, I just want to say really what a pleasure it's been to be working with you since being an alderman and now mayor, and I think I can speak openly for every single council member. There's no one really who works harder than you. And who does it with such care and compassion. If there's troubleshooting with a service matter that a resident has, other issues arise. I can recall I'm taking Thunberg's time from later on in the meeting. I can recall during COVID to making sure that all of our students had access to internet service, the work that you did and that you really pushed and helped lead in our community. If anyone in our city has been to a neighborhood meeting, a community gathering, any place that something good is going on, they've seen Joan Sage. And I just want to say thank you for the service that you've given to all of us as elected officials, but to all citizens as well. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Prophet Yusuf.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. In the book of 1 Timothy, the 3rd chapter, the 5th verse, it says, if a man can't take care of his own home, how can he take care of the church of God? Take care of home first. What I want to speak about tonight, America is falling apart. Collapsing bridges, buckling roads, overheated railways, deteriorating power lines, contaminated water lines, out-of-date public transportation, overtaxed power grids, aging ports and waterways, unsafe tunnels and highways, and spotty or not enough telecommunication access are all becoming frequent hallmarks of the American way of life. You don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows. A water main breaks every 2 minutes somewhere in the United States, resulting in contaminated drinking supplies and boiled water notice. 1 out of 3 bridges in the United States need repair, endangering hundreds of millions of commuters. More than 42,000 bridges across the country, carrying about 167 million vehicles each day, are in despair. It is estimated that 300 million people could face power outage across the United States between 2024 and 2028, due in large part to widespread power grid failure. No wonder United States infrastructure received a C on the infrastructure report card. America is falling apart. If the nation is woefully unprepared to deal with climate disasters such as floods, tornadoes, hurricanes, wildfire, and droughts, despite the hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars that have been pledged to shore up the nation's infrastructure problem, it is because politicians across the political spectrum has failed us. The devastation wrought by Hurricane Helen, Milton, makes this failure by the government to put the needs of American people first painfully evident. Entire towns are underwater. Roadways have collapsed or otherwise impassable. Potable water is scarce. More than 1.5 million households are still without power. Clearly, our national priorities need to be re-examined. While the politicians play partisan games with our tax dollars, the nation's critical infrastructure, both the physical foundation of the nation and the figurative foundation of our freedom, continues to be neglected and deprioritized in favor of grandstanding, wars abroad, foreign aid to shore up infrastructure and military overseas. It's time for this government to take care of home first. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Our next speaker is John Tack Brantley.
Good evening, Mayor McNamara, all the persons, our citizens of Rockford, Illinois. I want to spit some history. In Texas, more than 600 librarians quit their job because of them eliminating the books in the school system. This here Monday, we are taking 30 or maybe 40 of our kids to Disney on Ice. I'm doing it on Dr. King Day. What irks me is the fact that none of our kids turn around. None of our kids know who Dr. King is. It's up to us. We can't get mad at the school system to teach our kids our history. It's up to us to teach our kids our history. Back during slavery, when they didn't want us to learn how to read and write, we found a way to learn how to read and write. I want to thank Gina Meeks for bringing it to my attention that they're going to be doing something this weekend to talk about Dr. King. I want to think that I'm finally hearing from some of the aldermen that's teaching in the school system that they are going out their way to teach our kids our history. I want to thank Tom McNamara. This past month, on December the 28th, we went to the Harlem Globetrotters game. We took 40 kids to the Harlem Globetrotters game. It was over 3,000 people that was there. less than 2% of the people that was there was African American. The BMO Harrison Bank management asked me, why come the blacks don't come to the Harlem Gold Travelers game? We had 3 parents at the age of 37 years old, never heard of the Harlem Gold Travelers. Talking with the school system, talking with the Park District. This year going to be 100-year anniversary for the Harlem Gold Travelers. My goal this year is to bring 100 people, African Americans there, to the Harlem Gold Travelers game. What I learned, though, Macedonian Church is on board. The NAACP is on board. This is bigger than me. The school system every year takes 12 or 18 buses to see the hockey game. Why not take 5 or 6 buses and go and bring our kids to see the Harlem Gold Travelers game? I'm also very excited to hear that even the chief, Carla Red, and I'm going to put my foot in my mouth, but I have no doubt that the chief of the fire department going to be on board. That come December, instead of having 100 kids, we should have 300 to 500 African American kids at that Harlem Gold Travelers game, because 8 years ago I took 13 kids that was hardcore kids that was creating havoc in the community. Once they seen that game, they started playing basketball for the Boys and Girls Club. Now all 13 of them are productive members of our community. So I just want to say that we start working on this month. So come December, we can have, with the mayor being a part of it, getting the mayor and the city council and what have you to be a part of let's get 300 to 500 of our youth to go see the Harlem Gold Travelers game the same way. And with Dr. Reed on board, Jay, the Park District on board, that speaks volume. Let's get the city and the community on board, because our kids can't afford $54 or $84.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going Monday on Dr. King's birthday. If I can get y'all support, I appreciate it.
Thank you. So, do we have Lola here? Lola May Thrower? Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and move into tonight's agenda. Clerk, will you please call the roll? Here.
Here.
Present.
Here.
Thank you. Tonight we have one item under committee reports. That's the approval of the proposed 2025 funding agreement with the Rockford Area Arts Council in the amount of $75,000. The funding source is the city's redevelopment fund. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? Alderwoman Meeks?
Thank you so much. Hi. I have a quick question for the Arts Council. Do we receive an annual budget for the Arts Council
So
like we do for RACVB?
So for the for their entire budget, is that what you're asking, or for the what
I
they're
just
doing?
recall whenever we have RACVB come and they get funding, I do receive some kind of budget, and it shows their budget for the year.
Okay.
Do we have that for?
I don't have it today. I can get that for you, though, and send it out to you. What they included with this is their work plan and the objectives that they'll be working on over the next year.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I can tell you, like in the past, our particular money went towards their action grants and towards their youth programs. But I will get that directly for you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And
Sure.
then it showed that there's no rent for this one too. I think that's been the case the whole time, right?
Correct. This is the same lease that they've had the whole time.
Okay.
We're just renewing it for a year to ride alongside the funding agreement.
Are there other organizations that don't pay rent?
So, so we do this. A similar arrangement would be something like Think Big. We did when we did the development agreement with them. They're going to be in a space that we own. We have a set value of the rent there, but as long as they're meeting the terms of our development agreement, they don't pay actual rent to us. It's a similar kind of thing that we're doing.
Similar for Think Big? Is
Yeah.
that it?
That's all I can think of, unless Director.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Rockford RACVB, they do pay rent. However, rather than paying the rent, they are allowed to utilize those funds for their core activity. So we typically as it relates to RACVB. They use that for a significant portion of that for the banner program throughout our corridors.
And then what about like departments under the city, like Health and Human Services, when they have buildings outside of the realm of the city, do they pay rent?
So the Health and Human Services building does not pay rent that I recall. However, they did acquire that with grant funds, and that's part of the reason
Why they don't?
Yeah, that's correct.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Are there any questions or comments? Clerk, will you call the roll? Aye.
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 Thank you. Item passes. One item under resolutions. Number 1 is the approval of grant application and award acceptance through Bloomberg Philanthropies for the maximum amount of $100,000. This grant funds creating artistic intersection bump/bulb outs and other possible street art near the area of the city market in the downtown area. The Rockford Area Arts Council would be co-applicant. The grant does not require a cost match. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or questions?
Alderwoman Meeks.
Can you tell me what a bulb out is?
Sure. So what this grant is it's kind of a blending of street art and traffic safety. So a bump out is where you ordinarily you might do it with curbing, where you kind of narrow the roadway at the intersections to slow down traffic and to reduce the distance that pedestrians would have to cross the road. That's where the traffic safety comes in. In this case, it's going to be done in some sort of mural style where the art kind of comes into it. So, that's kind of one of the portions of what we're proposing for the grant.
So can you help me understand with regards to traffic safety? How does this provide traffic safety?
So, most drivers want to kind of obey the striping that's on the road, so they'll see paint, they'll try to stay out of it. It'll narrow the road, which will should make the driver feel like it's not as wide and slow them down. In addition, because you've created these little islands that have come out into the road, one, it puts pedestrians farther out in the road so drivers see them, but also two, it shortens, and it can be as much as 15, 20 feet, it shortens the distance they have to cross from crossing to crossing. So that's where the traffic safety comes in, particularly for bump outs.
Now with this, I'm sorry, just one more question. Would this be beneficial in residential neighborhoods?
So we have done it in some residential neighborhoods. We have not done it necessarily with striping. Where we've done it, is curb. It can be beneficial. It is not the cheapest option in the world. For pedestrian safety, what we're using we get a lot of bang for our buck is we stripe the parking spaces on a street. If it has you can park on the side of the road, we end up striping out the parking lane, and that has the same effect. It narrows the road, and we see a 5 to 7 mile an hour reduction in speeds on roads where we've done that.
So I love this idea. I love the idea of it all, including the art and everything. I just would love to see features like this within neighborhoods like my own, and not just for downtown. You know what I mean? So thank you so much.
Are there any other questions or comments? Alderman Bonnie?
Thank you. So where exactly downtown is this being proposed? It just says the city market area. What are we actually talking about?
So we are still we're still working through exactly where it's going to be and what it's going to look like. We still have about 3 weeks left before the grant is submitted. Preliminarily, I'm guessing State and Water, State and Madison, Market and Madison, Market and Water, just kind of surrounding that area. Previously, this grant was about $25,000. It's gone to, they're now funding $100,000. And so we think when we talk about the impact that the market has in bringing a bunch of people downtown, combining that with this sort of placemaking and traffic safety, we think we've got a pretty compelling story for this grant.
Would it likely include the State Street Bridge, which we narrow in the summer anyhow with what planters and?
So we will talk about that. I don't know that we will spend it and do any art there, but like I said, we're still kind of working out the full scope of this. And as I said, at $100,000, we're hoping we can do something that's very impactful in the area.
And have we talked at all or surveyed the downtown businesses about this? We obviously had a lot of controversy over the city market footprint a few years back, and whether questions about traffic safety and closing streets and traffic versus traffic flow.
So I don't know that we've necessarily surveyed any of the businesses. When I say the market area, I'm saying that because everyone knows where that's at. We're trying to find an area that's can be impactful, and I don't know that it's necessarily dependent on what the market's footprint is as much as just kind of, we know that the market's going to be in that parking lot and kind of going out from there. Is that?
So that almost makes me think it sounds like we're going after the grant to have the funds and the project with the location, like more than the location driving the grant's driving with the location. Would that be accurate?
I think that this is a wonderful grant that allows us to, like I said, kind of combine art and traffic safety. And I don't know that we had the location before the grant. Once we became aware of the grant, we kind of settled on this location.
But we can't apply for the grant, I assume, without a determined location?
We could. I'm assuming, but I don't know that we would be very competitive if we didn't have an idea of where we were going. Because like I said, I think the talking about what the market has done in addition to what we're wanting to bring to it and the placemaking is what will make the grant application compelling. We might be able to write a compelling story somewhere else also, but.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Clerk, will you call the roll?
Aye.
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 Thank you. That item passes. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. This meeting is adjourned.
Oh, you call, the roll was called? Okay, thank you. Tonight we have two items before us. The pre-annexation agreement for 5426 and 54 35th Street. Any comments, questions? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion passed. So, okay. Aye. Yes, please. Well, I'm sorry. Any questions or comments? Mark?
Thank you. So would be R1 zoning, so can we assume that the plan is to develop this with single-family homes? The material that we received talks mostly about solar project and not really about anything else.
Oliver Body, it's a solar project, but the underlying zone would be R1 because that would be what the designation for that area would be in the future. So we want to make sure that when the solar project was, when it comes to termination 20 years down the road or 25 years, that the R1 would be referred back to that. So then single family could occur.
So the plan would be for that entire parcel to be developed as a solar project?
At this time, yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Are there any more questions, comments? Seeing none, clerk, will you please call the roll? Aye. Thank you. The next item, Zoning Board of Appeals recommends approval of a special use permit for the installation of a solar farm in R1 single-family residential zoning district at 5426 and 54 35th Street. Are there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion or comments? Seeing none, will you please call the roll, clerk?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Thank you.
Committee. Clerk, could you please call the roll? Here. All right, we have quorum. Our first item tonight is the quarterly investment report. And Director Haggerty.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So this is through September 30th, so we will have year-end next month to present. It was a little delayed because of the holidays. But market update, inflation, again, this is all a little bit dated, so I'll just kind of move quickly. We saw inflation continue to fall and unemployment stay steady. We had a Fed reduction in September. The portfolio performance is doing extremely well. Our core account at a 7.86% total return over 12 months, 6% each on the short-term and motor fuel tax accounts, and the portfolio is in compliance with our investment policy. I'm happy to answer any questions or take any statements from any of the aldermen.
Well, thank you, Director.
Yes.
Open the floor for comments. Alderman? Alderman Durkee.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome.
The investment return is a little bit lower than market. Is that because we're constrained to use more like bond funds?
Correct. That's correct. Yes.
Thank you. Director Haggerty, I was wondering if you could, because some of the other aldermen were not on council at the time, if we could maybe just bring back a little bit of the story and maybe to enlighten those, again, the millions that watch us on TV each Monday, where we sat a few years ago with this money and where we sit at now as a result of the administration and council at the time.
Certainly.
What we had done.
Yeah, so we had, well, first off, the city was in a fairly, from a cash position. We were following the 2008 recession. We were in a really challenging position and were borrowing to pay bills in the beginning of the year. That's where the line of credit originated that we continue to hold. Obviously, we're not in that position anymore. During that time period, there was no cash to invest, so we really were just holding funds in local bank accounts for minimal returns. As part of actually out of our process that we went through with the NRN and the development of our long-term financial plan, this was an item that came back as part of that recommendation and was sort of highlighted by the team that the city needs to really dive in. We explored a variety of options to get there, including in-house management or external management of investments. We really didn't feel we had the expertise or the time on staff to handle internally. We've lost an entire manager in the finance department since then, someone who had experience in the banking industry before coming to the city. So we opted for external management of our investments, have learned a lot since that went into effect, but really have gotten to a place now where, you can see we've earned, just the core account, $1.6 million in interest earnings and 2.8 almost an increase in market value in those investments. And that's just taxpayer money earning money, and certainly considerably higher than we have seen in the time prior to this active investment of our funds. So, certainly we keep cash on hand for a number of purposes. Cash that's restricted, as is MFT that we're holding for a future date. We want to put that to work as much as we can. So, and this money just comes right back into the originating fund to use for operations or capital programs.
Great. Well said. And thank you to administration and all those responsible and those on council that moved this forward. Those are millions of dollars that the city would not have had we not moved in the direction we did. So I think that's prudent.
Yes.
So thank you, Director Haggerty, for overseeing that.
Thank you.
And I think with, excuse me, with the fees that even we pay the investment company, we are coming out ahead.
Yes, and this is all net of fees. So, we're, the cost for active management is very reasonable compared to the yield that we get. So.
Yep. All right. Thank you. Any questions? All right. Let's move on to number 3. There's 3 items under committee reports. Approval of vouchers in the amount of $3,347,854. Do I have a motion? Second? Thank you. Any discussion, comments? No, just on item A, I'm sorry, Alderman Beach. Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Moving on to item B, proposed sale of city-owned property located 815 West State Street to Salvation Army for their bid in the amount of $1,000. Do I have a motion? Is there a second? Okay, comments? Alderman Beach.
I have a question with legal. I sit on the board of directors of the Salvation Army. Do I need to abstain from the vote? I didn't hear the answer. Okay.
Practice, yes.
Thank you.
So in that case, and thanks for that question, Alderman Beach, in that case, we would not have quorum on this item. Well, if, or with an abstention, would that still is going to qualify?
It would still come out of committee.
Okay,
and council.
great.
It would just be no recommendation.
All right. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstention? Okay, item passes. Item letter C, approval of an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Rockford and State of Illinois Department of Transportation for Illinois 70, which is Kilburn Avenue, resurfacing between Safford Road and Glenwood Avenue project. The total cost of the project is estimated to be $2,012,500, of which the city's share is estimated to be $19,877. The funding source is motor fuel tax funds. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Any discussion, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Going on to resolutions, we have 4 items. Starting with item A, resolution approving appropriation of motor fuel tax funds for improvement under the Illinois Highway Code, Illinois 70 resurfacing in the amount of $40,000. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Discussion? Comments? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Item passes. Item B, award of non-competitive contract, replacement radio console to Motorola Solutions of Chicago, Illinois, in the amount of $46,325.97. This is a one-time purchase. The funding source is the Fire Department's Risk Management Fund. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Any discussion, comments? Alderman Prunty.
One who provides this service. So that's why it's non-competitive.
Director Haggerty?
Yes, sir. So this was equipment that was damaged in a lightning strike. So we're replacing like for like. A Motorola piece of equipment was destroyed. We're replacing it with new Motorola equipment. We could potentially use a different type of equipment, but we would spend extra money making it compatible with the system that we already have in place.
So I'll have that same question about the next one too. So.
All right, as we stay on this item, any more discussion? Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I am an aye also. Item passes. Item C, award of non-competitive contract apparatus repair aerial unit 1268 to McQueen Equipment in Waiawaiga. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. Waiawaiga, Wisconsin, in the amount of $36,317. This is a one-time purchase. The funding source is the Fire Department operating budget. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Opposed? No, or I'm sorry, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item passes. Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Alderwoman Prunty, you had a question on this?
Same question as before.
So, Alderwoman Prunty, it's common with specialty equipment to have a sole shop regionally service a type of vehicle. For this one, McQueen is the licensed repair facility for Pierce, which is the manufacturer of our equipment. So we, no other repair facility is certified by the manufacturer to do this type of repair work. And we see the same with specialty equipment in the Public Works Department as well.
Thank you.
All right. Item has passed. Going on, moving to item D, acceptance of Health and Human Services Department supplemental funding allocation in the amount of $250,000. The allocation includes $200,000 for investments in technological infrastructure. The remaining $50,000 will fund contractual grant writing services. The funding source is the 3% cannabis recreation tax. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Any discussion, comments? Alderman Beach?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is this new equipment that's being bought? Is it to replace other equipment, or is no equipment at all? This is going to be first purchase.
Director?
Thank you for your question, Alderman Beach. So this will account for technological upgrades that may ultimately include equipment. However, at this point, it's really around modernizing our service deliveries. As you may know, we have a significant number of applicants for a variety of our assistance programs who have difficulty getting in to get services. So this is really to upgrade our ability to take electronic applications and to move into this millennia with regard to customer service and being able to serve folks more efficiently. So ultimately, there may be some equipment that has to be purchased, but it's really around all those upgrades and the system as well.
So then the other follow-up, then the $50,000 for grant writing services, is that for new staff, or is it just to improve outside service, so to speak?
Director?
It is essentially the approval for outside services. We will look to contract for to obtain assistance for us to explore additional funding mechanisms for the department.
Thank you very much for those answers.
Alderwoman Meeks?
Allowing me to speak on your committee. I just kind of said some things. I want to first and foremost thank Alderman Hoffman and Alderman Thunberg and Alderman Frost for forming the ad hoc committee to really kind of put all of this together to kind of start that process. But if you wouldn't mind me just taking a moment to say this, I want to kind of discuss something that I think is long overdue, and that's the funding of our Health and Human Services Department. After over a decade hiatus from direct, consistent city funding for this critical department, we're finally taking a step forward with a supplemental allocation of $250,000 sourced from the 3% cannabis recreation tax. And I believe this is a pivotal moment, not only for the department, but for the vulnerable individuals and families that it serves. So for over a decade, while we have rightly invested in public infrastructure, arts and culture, Visitors Bureau, and countless nonprofit organizations across Rockford, we have neglected to provide direct, reliable funding to the department that works on the front lines with those most in need. And this department serves our city's most vulnerable, those experiencing poverty, homelessness, food insecurity, and health disparities. These are the individuals who, with the right support, have the greatest potential to be active, engaged members of our community, or already are. Yet, for years, they have relied on a department that has been sustained almost entirely by the resourcefulness and dedication of its staff, holding on by state and federal funding and in-kind offered by the city. But it's not enough. I want to take a moment to express my deepest gratitude to Director Parham and her team. Their ability to leverage every possible resource and maintain partnerships and deliver vital services despite limited funding has been nothing short of remarkable. But I believe and hope you all agree that it's time for Rockford to step up,
that it's time to make this funding for this department more regular, more reliable, and more sustainable. More substantial. And let me provide just a little bit of context that Rockford is a city of over 148,000 people, with 22% living below the poverty line, significantly higher than the national average of 11%. Nearly 10% of our population faces severe housing insecurity. And these aren't just statistics. They're representative of our neighbors, our children's classmates, and the individuals who are part of the fabric of this city. The work of the Health and Human Services Department has a direct impact on these numbers. And when this department thrives, so does our community. So this allocation includes $200,000 for the investment in technological infrastructure, which is crucial for modernizing the department and improving service delivery. The remaining $50,000 will fund a grant writer position, which is a strategic addition. This grant writer will focus on securing additional resources to sustain current operations and identify opportunities for growth. In a city with as many pressing needs as Rockford, this position is an investment in our future, ensuring that we're not just maintaining, but expanding our capacity to serve. Now, why cannabis funding? The 3% cannabis recreation tax is a unique and appropriate revenue stream for this purpose. Cannabis legalization has generated significant revenue for our city, and it's only fitting that we use these funds to support the well-being of our residents. Allocating a portion of this tax to the Health and Human Services Department reflects commitment to using these new resources to uplift the most vulnerable members of our community. This supplemental funding is a start, but I don't think it needs to be the end of the conversation. We must commit to finding sustainable ways to support this department long term. The Health and Human Services Department is not just a safety net, it's a springboard. When we invest in health, housing, and human services, we're not just addressing crises, we're creating opportunities, fostering stability, and building a stronger, more resilient Rockford. So I just hope that we don't wait another decade to make this right, and that we seize on this opportunity to prioritize the health and well-being of our residents. So please vote yes on this item and pass it through committee and on to council. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alderwoman Hoffman. You're welcome.
I want to thank Alderman Meeks for her great comments, but I also want to thank the mayor for putting this committee together. I want to thank Alderman Tunenberg and Frost, because we all came together. It was very interesting when we found out the insane system that we have been using because we were made to. People had to call in. Thousands of people had to call in. They were given 1 day a week, and they had to fight to get their call through. People had to take off from work to call, and if they couldn't get through, then they had to take off the next week. It was crazy. We are going to be, and please correct me, Director Parham, if I'm wrong, only the second area to go into the 21st century in Illinois. We're only the second one to go into the 21st century, and that's what we're doing by having computerized applications. So again, Mayor, thank you. Team, thank you. We overcame something that was just plain crazy, and now we will have a better system for all of our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman. And some of those comments were right spot on. And when you talk about taking off of work, Alderman Frost doesn't mind taking off of work, thus not here tonight. But I'm sure he's servicing somebody in the 4th Ward, and probably the reason why. But thank you, Alderwoman Meeks and Alderwoman Hoffman and Alderman Frost as well. And I had the privilege to sit on that ad hoc committee, and it was rather enlightening. And knowing that we are coming now into the modern day era versus the Stone Ages on some of these applications, Director Parham, thank you and your team for bringing some of this to the attention. But yes, that one of the things that we did not touch on, which I'm sure we'll touch on maybe in full city council, is the fact of, or the recommendation that some of these items that are coming up in front of us on a almost weekly basis, these recurring items at least, these grants that are coming up, we're looking at it was our consensus as a committee, this ad hoc committee, to streamline that process and give you the authority versus having to come to council on these recurring grants, but obviously then giving us maybe a mid-year update on things. And for new grants, those would be coming in front of council like they are now. But so there might be a few shorter council meetings because of that, and I know Alderman Barrios is ecstatic about that. So, but anything before we adjourn? Any questions? Alderman Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question. For the director, do you already have a vendor in mind? Are you working with a consultant now that ahead of time for bids, or how is this going to work?
So we are working lockstep with IT around vetting some of the potential vendors. There are a couple vendors that actually create systems that are specific to the programs of community action, so specific around the LIHEAPs and homeless prevention programs and around Head Start. So there are some vendors that specifically cater to this realm of service delivery. So we are working with IT, with vetting through some of those and getting demonstrations, and I'm figuring out what works with our current network here, and so that we can be in compliance with what the city expects for us, as well as our federal and state requirements around reporting and all those across all those grant programs as well. So there are a couple that we're working with, but they have not. I believe we'll still be going through, I believe, the traditional bid process, I think, with that as well.
I'm assuming this is both a hardware and software upgrade. Does the vendor supply both and work with both, or are you going to go to two different people to do that?
I'll defer to IT.
Alderman Durkee, we will probably go two different directions, because the software is specialized and then the hardware is not sold by that particular vendor.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Alderman Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome.
I certainly appreciate the leadership of this administration. Comments by my colleague, Ms. Meeks. This demonstrates what the city is all about, which gives me hope. I appreciate the work that the ad hoc committee has done. I'm very happy that this will move forward, and the leadership under Parham is greatly appreciated from my perspective. So I just want to thank you, all the individuals that are involved in the work, because our residents are very important to us. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? And let's get this thing through. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 0. Item passes. Before we adjourn, I'd like to just, I have a note here from the mayor also to give a hello to one of our longtime ardent watchers, Dr. David Johnson. So hello from all of us at council. Adjournment. We are done with Finance Personnel Committee. Thank you.
Did they vote on it?
So moved.
No. Yeah, we have a motion. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those in favor? Aye.
We're going to be over.
It's B, committee report B, so was that approved without?
Good evening. We will call to order the City of Rockford Special City Council meeting for Monday, January 13th, 2025. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Durkee. Toomberg. Prunty. Wilkins. Hoffman. Rose. Beach. Barrios. Meeks. Bailey. Bonnie. 11 ayes, or 11 present.
Thank you. We have a quorum this evening. I am going to, at this time, skip the closed session and go down to motions and resolutions and go to Code and Regulation Committee. We have one item in front of us. Alderman Bailey, would you be able to read that in?
Yes. We move to convene into closed sessions in order
Nope, sorry, nope. Go down to the motions and resolutions under Code and Regulation.
Oh, thank you. Resolution for settlement of John Horton versus City of Rockford, case number 18C 6829 in the amount of $9 million. $9,500,000.
Thank you. So we have one item before us. Is there a motion to suspend rule number 9? We have a motion. We have a second. Is there any discussion on just the rules suspension? Seeing no discussion on that rule suspension, all those in favor of suspending rule number 9, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. So now we have one item before us. Is there any discussion or questions regarding the one item before us? Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Durkee. Toomberg. Prunty. Wilkins. Hoffman. Rose. Beach. Barrios. Meeks. Bailey. Bonnie. 11 ayes.
Excellent, thank you. Before I ask for a motion to adjourn, I would say it just seems, just personally to me, it seems like a season of loss. We continue to lose so many wonderful Rockfordians, and one of who's just made an extra special impact on our community was State Representative Chuck Jefferson. He served as a representative of the 67th District, and I'd like to ask for a moment of silence, but before that I would just like to give a little bit, and I feel poorly because I don't know if I'm the one who could do it most justice for his wonderful career and service, but he spent 6 years in the United States Army. He moved to Rockford, what I could find around 1972. He was actually the campaign manager for Charles Box, who became the first black mayor of the city of Rockford. And I believe in that first campaign, I believe, if my memory serves me correct, Charles Box won every single ward in all precincts but 2, which is a testament, obviously, to Charles Box, Mayor Box, but also to now State Representative Chuck Jefferson. He was appointed to the General Assembly in 2001. He left the General Assembly, and he left it as an assistant majority leader. Overall, I would just say every interaction that I had with Representative Chuck Jefferson, he was what you wanted in a leader, someone who was kind, someone who was thoughtful, someone who was empathetic, someone who always made you feel like when you were talking to him, you were the only person that he was focused on. He had no other worries or thoughts around, and just wanted to say most sincere condolences from the city of Rockford to the entire Jefferson family. With that, if there's other comments, I'd love that, and then we can go to a moment of silence. Alderman Bonney.
Thank you. You took some of the words out of my mouth. I think I knew Representative Jefferson for many years when he was on the county board, and he
1990. Sorry.
He kind was one of the first ones that came to my mind. Also humble. He, for somebody who held a high office here, never got preoccupied with any of the trappings of that office, and I think that's best, was always, in my mind, best illustrated by the fact that when he ran, he used to stand out at the intersection of Alpine and State Street wearing a sandwich board for hours, campaigning with anybody who would slow down, as you know, as if he were collecting donations or whatnot. And I wouldn't do that. I would not do that. And he, you'd drive by, you'd be out running errands, you'd drive by, he would be out there, you'd come by 2 hours later and he'd still be there. It was really amazing. And I mentioned to the mayor earlier today, because this is an intersection I traverse at least 5 times a week, that we ought to name the intersection or the block surrounding Charles and Jefferson Streets after Representative Jefferson.
Anyone have any other comments? Alderwoman Meeks.
I don't have many comments, but I just want to say, you know, if not for him, people like me, people like Alderman Bailey, Alderman Wilkins, Alderman Prunty, I don't think we'd be here in these seats if not for the path that he paved in this community. And I'm just so appreciative of his efforts. He always made me and anyone else in his orbit feel as if we can talk with him and communicate with him and feel like we're a part of something. And I will always, always be grateful to him for that and everyone that comes after him and before him. So thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Rose?
Yeah, one of the experiences as a child, you know, in Rockford is when you're at different events and you see someone that is a politician that you really don't know. And one of those experiences was running into him. I think it was at the Children's Center. I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but he was there and he was so approachable to young people, but really of anyone. I mean, he could literally walk up to anyone and start a conversation with them, and that's one of the things that I remember about Mr. Jefferson. And so I think if he's in heaven right now, he's probably talking quite a bit and you know, reuniting with family members. So just something I remember as a child interacting with him.
Thanks. Alderman Bailey?
Thank you, Your Honor. I didn't get a chance to talk to Mr. Jefferson, but he and my father were good friends. They always had conversations when they were at the American Legion. So I know that they're having conversation now about us. But I want to offer my condolences to the family, and our prayers are with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderwoman Hoffman?
Thank you, Mayor. Chuck was my mentor. When I ran in 2006 for county board, he was by my side always. And we went to a lot of events together. And what the ladies here don't understand is back in as late as 2006, life was very different for elected women. We were very much judged by our behavior, and he would make sure I stayed in line. One of the things I was told by him was to never be seen with a drink in my hand, because that would bring me down as a woman. How we dressed, how we talked, how we walked. He was there by my side, always guiding me and keeping me out of trouble. And then I went on to be an alderman. But I thank him forever because they were very much different times. You can talk to Letisa Wallace. she did a whole event on how women were treated as representatives and in elected positions. And so he kept me out of trouble, and I kept going forward, and I thank him.
Thank you. Okay. With that, I just ask that we have a moment of silence. Thank you. With that, is there a motion to adjourn? We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed?